Bueno. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the South Star Classroom. We've got our co-hosts, the magnificent, the amazing, the beard of knowledge, David Castillo, with us. As always, the doctor, the real doctor, Dr. Charles Cole, and our radiant queen, Jubilee Ransom. Because Jubilee is with us, always got to do them check-ins, see how everyone's doing. We have been told by our sponsors to keep check-ins under 5 minutes. So we
yes. Today, I thought you were saying 5 minutes apiece total. Yes.
Nope, no, 5 minutes total. So, ladies first, Jubilee, how have you been, man?
She's sideways right now.
I'm trying to load up my laptop. It took forever to turn back on. I am tired. I am grateful. I am cold. I am excited that March 8th will bring us, spring ahead. So we'll have more daylight. I'm just counting down.
That's all. Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. All of the daylight saved. Hey, that's pretty good. That was quick, sweet, and beautiful. Mm-hmm. David, brother, we got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
How are you feeling?
Man, I'm busy. I feel like I've been going really hard, like with work and with play,
Ooh, I like that.
That's good. Yeah.
And just really disturbed with all the news that's coming out. It's like every day something new. It's like these latest allegations that the Department of Justice is like actively hiding, this interview with the victim of Donald Trump. And then he's giving the State of the Union, like nothing's happening, right? The Dow's at 20,000, whatever. That stuff is exhausting. But other than that, I got to spend time with one of my aunts down here. She had her 90th birthday, and she's still harassing, the meseros at the restaurants, which I love. And then, that's it. Yeah, excited to dig in and kind of make sense of what we saw this last couple of days in Mexico. It's far from over. It's going to be very interesting.
I'm excited to dive in myself because it's a topic that I think a lot of people want to know more about and don't know a ton about given the history. The doc.
I am good. I'm tired. I think that seems like to be a theme for all of us. I had to cover the BAFTAs. I don't know if you guys saw what happened at the BAFTAs with Coogler. Well, really, Delroy Lindo and
What the hell happened there?
He has Tourette's. The BAFTAs had a 2-hour delay. Basically, somebody with Tourette's yelled "nigga" while they were up there, and it didn't get edited out. It's a whole thing. I had to cover it. And it sucks for those guys. They're having like a really incredible year. It's the first time ever that a black person won for original screenplay, and it's overshadowed by this, but it happens. And also getting to I was a social worker. I worked with young people that had Tourette's, not specifically this version of it. So got to educate, and then the BAFTAs just kind of dropped the ball. Like they told the crowd that he's a very famous guy. He did a documentary on it. And that's why he was there, because he's nominated. But they told the crowd that he would be there, but they didn't tell the announcers. And then they censored other stuff, but they didn't censor that. So, and then it's a whole thing about European blackness, and it's a lot of stuff. I'm kind of tired of talking, but it's like, it's one of those things. And then also looking at this, and this hits in a different way, which we'll talk about in the section, because I love border town Mexico, because I was broke in college and after, and that's where you go when you drive to San Diego. I was just saying, David knows this. Go to Rosarito Beach and get you a wristband, and you good. So, but I'm happy to see y'all.
Right on, man. We're happy to see you as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ask you about this European situation later, because now you got me all like intrigued. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I want to know what that is. But before
Delroy Lindo, a fun fact, is one of my best friends, Mylan Drake. He is his son's godfather. Like, so we've done events. Delroy has come out and worked with our young people before, and
that guy's an incredible artist.
he's from over there, but he lives in the Bay as well, so he splits time. So he's just a cool cat, and you hate seeing him having to go through this stuff late in his career, but he's nominated, it's going well for him. So, and he was a complete gentleman throughout the whole thing. So he's always classy. So what you gonna do?
I love that. I love that about him. He was great in Sinners, but man, I have loved that dude in a whole lot of movies. Shit, man.
Have you watched The Five Bloods?
The what?
Have you watched The Five Bloods?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take too much time in the intro, but yeah, he's incredible. Yeah.
All right. Well, everything is I'm tired too. I think it's just we're all tired, right? Like we're about to jump into daylight savings. We're kind of getting close to spring break. We all need that relief. We all need that break. But speaking, ladies and gentlemen, of spring break, if you are planning your spring break to Mexico, I would definitively advise, right? I speak English 17 Dr. Peppers. I would advise you all to think quite differently. So this episode,
the president said it's safe, Omar. She said it's safe. I'm listening to the president.
Rest in power, my man, Senator Davis. That would be like if the president of Mexico, she was telling me, like, dude, come on over, I'd be like, shit. I get it. That is, you're talking about peak tourism season in Mexico. This is why all this shit is happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. Like, all this shit is on purpose. We're going to break it down for you all, help explain what's going on. So for those of you all that are seeing this stuff on the news or seeing this stuff on Instagram, what is happening? So the basics, ladies and gentlemen, there is a cartel called the New Jalisco Cartel. And David, New Jalisco, I think I'm missing some word like the
Nuevo Jalisco Generación Cartel.
New Generation Jalisco. So Jalisco is a state in Mexico, adjacent with Sinaloa. We'll get to that in a second because that will all make sense when we talk about El Chapo. Crazy stuff. So essentially what happened is that the head of now, or was the head of the largest cartel in the world, the largest drug cartel, the New Generation Jalisco, their leader, El Mencho, was killed by Mexican military forces in what was essentially a complete shoot down between him, his bodyguards, and the Mexican military. Now, this is a huge deal because for those of us that have lived on the border, or those of us that follow the history of the cartels, people often think, oh, well, you killed the head of a cartel, great, things are going to get better. And the answer is oftentimes, actually, things get significantly worse because when you cut the head off of the snake or the hydra, 3 heads spring up because you've got inner fighting amongst that cartel to devise who is going to then run that cartel. And then you've got a humongous power vacuum and other cartels vying to become that number 1 cartel. So they'll start basically eliminating as many people that they can during that civil war period in order to put themselves in a better situation. This has happened historically. I'll get into that later. So this happened just, like not long ago, right? Like within the week. And as a result of the Mexican military getting involved, the cartel has decided we're going to, have some retribution to show you who's really in charge of Mexico. So the cartel has now decided to start bombing and setting ablaze Costco's, stores, cars, and you just see these scenes of Puerto Vallarta, which is a city my family lives in, by the by. I've checked on them and they are okay. In fact, For those of you that are saying, hey, the Mexican president is saying everything is okay. No, it ain't. If they're coming to El Paso, if they're coming here, my family that lives there, this is not a good thing. Meaning this is not even far from being over. The retribution is nuts because you're asking yourself, Omar, are you saying a Mexican cartel is essentially waging war against the Mexican military? And I am definitively telling you the answer is yes. And if you are wondering how in the hell could that happen, Mexican cartels, ladies and gentlemen, there was this, Dave, you remember this, and Doc, I think you remember this, Jubilee, I don't know if you remember this at all, but Forbes magazine, this is like a couple decades ago, back in 2008, named Chapo Guzman one of the richest people and the most influential on the planet. Totally true. The amount of money that drug cartels, ladies and gentlemen, outmatch, I would arguably say, hundreds of world countries, maybe over 100. There's only like 320 something countries in the world, but I would easily wage money that the cartel's wealth is greater than that of many countries. And with that wealth comes an inordinate amount of power. And that power comes in the form of not just guns, ladies and gentlemen, not just youth, which is what we're going to kind of get into later on in this episode, but things like submarines. Cartels own submarines, ladies and gentlemen. They own heavy artillery, heavy sway, heavy levels of power amongst these places, because oftentimes the cartel is the only place that people can gain employment and help their families survive, which I'm not advocating for, but it's just the circumstance of what is going on in Mexico. So there is all-out war in Mexico right now. People are, in fact, leaving. The Mexican president has said that it is safe. I would rebuke that immensely. And this episode, we're just going to kind of break it down and discuss, like, how could this happen? Why has this happened? What's the history of it? And what are the implications for young people in Mexico? So before we just jump to the first question, just kind of want to get your hot takes. What have you heard? What's your perspective? Like, this is something maybe people don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah, I did some research for the show. I'll just share, look, man, ain't too many. It's like cartels and it's like warlords in Africa, like that. I just never want like issues with, like, cartels for their reach and their power, and like these warlords that like take 8-year-olds and like, yo, if you kill 5 people, you get a soccer ball. Like, those are just different types of people. I just, as somebody, like, I didn't have a lot of money when I was younger, so I spent a lot of time in Rosarito Beach and Tijuana, and that was around the time when Juarez was having it. And I just remember the cartel sending a message to journalists, because a lot of those young journalists grew up with American influences, so they see bloggers, and the cartel was like, this is not America, don't. And they kept doing it, and then those bloggers ended up on a bridge, hung upside down naked with their heads cut off. And then there was always this rule that I remember. I was watching all this stuff because I used to go there and travel, even though Juarez isn't right there. And they, you don't go after sheriffs. Well, damn it, they killed the sheriff. The sheriff's daughter took over, and they killed her too. Like, they make their own rule. And what it seems like, and there's always, America's never too far behind. There's rumblings with you got both the Olympics and you got the World Cup coming, similar to what happened in Brazil when the World Cup came, and there was a massive sweep through the barrio, and Brazil don't have what this cartel has. And like you said, somebody else wants to be the new Chapo, and I mind my business. I wouldn't be talking about this unless we had a show on it. So I'm going to stay in my black business and answer questions as I am asked. But it is very sad, and watching it, and, watching Costco's. I mean, they have planned attacks. They're going after the resorts. Like the resort had bullet holes through it. Like, people were in the airport spooked, right? And so, but on the other side, the locals, like, school didn't get canceled either. So the locals are like, you know, we're operating. So that's my general response with no definitive answer. But based off the research, that's what I've seen, and that's what I can compare it to.
Straight up. We'll get a little bit more into the chapel of it all later. Dave?
I think I mean, Mexico has had a very long and complicated political history, having nothing to do with the cartels, because the cartel stuff really started in the like mid to late 1980s, when the Colombian cartels power, the world of the Escobars started to splinter and lose power. All of that, you know, the center of the global, you know, drug trafficking moved from South America to Mexico. But even before that, I mean, Mexico has there's just a lot of political violence in Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the Mexican Revolution, and I mean, it's
good call.
Up to I mean, there's, you know, right here on the border, they killed a presidential candidate, Colosio, right over here in Mexicali. I think in the 1990s.
Yeah, you remember that shit.
And it's you know, it's I think it's pretty tragic for Mexico, because in its current state, the country is essentially living under it's like the narcos control the country, you know, more powerful in particular regions than others, but overall, like they pull the strings, right? And the politicians have to do this very delicate dance. Like, you know, some of them do the whole war on the cartels. That doesn't work out. Some of them kind of pretend they don't exist. That doesn't work out. And so, you know, just to give you some color on how much this guy was worth, El Mencho, anywhere between like 500 million and $1 billion for him, one guy.
Yeah, alone.
The group, the CJNG, which was his cartel, estimated anywhere between 20 and $50 billion.
Yep.
So just to give you a sense of scale. And then lastly, I would say, yeah, it's not just happening in Western Mexico. I think we're just seeing the start of it. I think, you know, they've disrupted when the cartels are like big and powerful and there's only a handful of them, there tends to be a stability, you know, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I mean, they don't want violence, you know, they want to move their product. They want to make their money. They want to, you know, strengthen their power base. But when we have things like this, when the head of the snake is taken out, you know, it just creates a lot of a vacuum. And then you're going to have all these new factions coming in, and there's going to be all these power plays, and it's going to play out not just in the streets of Western Mexico, but the border. We had activity here in Tijuana. I live like 20 miles from the border. You know, we had stuff here in Tijuana, Mexicali, Tecate. But it's also going to take place in American cities, in Chicago, in New York, in DC, in San Diego, in San Francisco, because these cartels are Mexican cartels, but they're global cartels.
Yes,
exactly. They're global. They're everywhere.
Jude, any thoughts, first takes?
So many, but I'll wait till you pop the first question. Of course, I just feel really sad. I was watching a video of a mom that was being interviewed, and she was saying how afraid she was and how they only go outside when necessary. And it's just like, damn, like this is where you live. Like it's not even technically like a war-torn country, right? We know that we have plenty of places in our world where that is a daily factor of life. But to think that, you know, Mexico, because of this, is feeling like that to its residents is sad. And the fact that, you know, schools are shut down and people are terrified. So that makes me sad. That's my initial response.
They going to school. That's what they were saying. It was like the locals was like, the locals were reassuring in the videos I watched, right? Like coming up, like the locals were reassuring all these tourists, like the worst of it is over. And then the president came out, but they just like, yo, I don't know, man. I'm trying, because I want to be respectful, right? Like I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? But it's a cartel, man. People forget Escobar blew up a plane, yo, trying to kill a presidential candidate.
He
He
did.
killed
He
everybody
did.
on the plane, bruh, and the dude wasn't
Yep.
even on there. Like these people are different. They listen, man. They different.
Yeah.
So, like I said, like David said, I'm in Chicago. Like the cartel is here. Like they are very much here. Remember we was talking about the Venezuelans and being here and all that stuff. Some of that stuff has like spilled out. I'm in the south suburbs, just so you get a sense of what Dave is talking about. The city pushes a lot of that stuff. They push that stuff out here to Harvey and Dalton, and like you see it. Like when you're like in a black suburb and you see like a lot of Latino people that's not normally there, it's like, oh, it's like something's happening here. And we just know to mind our business. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
I mean, absolutely, man. And I got to tell you, most people keep their business. Here's the unfortunate aftermath, Jubilee, is that shit gets caught in the crossfires a lot.
Mhm.
However, here's the irony of it all. And this is for those of us that live on the border and have dealt with this stuff. And like, you know, Doc was talking about the extraordinary level of violence in Juarez back in 2008 when Chapo basically took out the Fuentes Carrillo cartel and its entire infrastructure to become the dominant drug dealer in the world, or the narco, right? So much so that they have corridas, they have songs about this guy. And I'm going to get into why that's prevalent. But what's interesting is that the cartels are usually quite focused on who they are targeting. Because they know if they start targeting American citizens or just random civilians, all shit's going to go nuts. The American military will get involved, CIA, a whole bunch of people. So they're actually extremely focused on who they are enacting violence towards. And as Doc stated, I'll give you an example. Chapo in Juarez, which is right next door to me, had this massive banner on one of the buildings of all the people that they were going to kill, the Presidente Municipal, the head of police, the head of Morales, and they started executing these cats and marking them off the list. And in all of that,
it's called a leaderboard.
Yeah.
The dashboard.
Yeah, it was like a fucking video game. And all of that, the civilian casualties would be surprisingly lower than anyone could possibly imagine, because they don't want that heat. And then people calling me up being like, Omar, are you okay? This is insane. I'm like, I'm okay because I've lived in a border town my whole life. They don't touch people over here, because the minute they mess with anyone that's American, now you've got the American military involved. And like, so sorry, dude. Like, I may not be a huge fan of how much we spend on the military, but given how much money we spend on the military, ain't no one going to touch us, dude. Like if we wanted to put a drone out and just absolutely decimate anything or anyone, we could. And the Mexican cartels don't want that kind of heat. So they're very careful. You'll notice that they're actually right now, they're sending messages to the people being like, this is not you. This has nothing to do with you. We don't want to harm you. Please stay at home. These are the cartels sending the messages to the people, not the Mexican government, although they are. But the first to put a message out to the Mexican people was the new generación, the new generation Jalisco cartel. Like, please stay home. We don't want to harm you, which is the irony of all ironies in a situation like this. So it begs the first question, ladies and gentlemen, given the history. So how have decades of drug trafficking and cartel evolution in Mexico shaped the current security landscape? And why does the killing of one leader sometimes lead to more violence instead of stability? So David, Doc, you were talking about this. It's like, how does killing one leader affect everything? But how do decades of this affect security? Because I'll just give you a quick hint. When you have more money than the country itself, more power, more military might in terms of guns, submarines, shit, people that are looking after you and protecting you, that is a very difficult situation for a government to just simply say either we're going to ignore you, as David eloquently said, or go to war with you, because neither one of those are really great options. So how's this affected it? Because I think our audience is like, shit, is this something that's new, or has this been going on for decades?
Well, it's been going on for a long time, and I'll clear the board and get out the way. Like I said, respectfully on this topic, I think, but I mean, again, and I, what I would tell people watching is don't try to make this like oversimplified and say, well, this is happening because Trump is in office. No.
Right.
This is there's a lot of things we can blame old boy for, but this is different. And there's so much money. Like I don't think people understand. They're so from even in Medellin, farmers are still finding like Escobar's money. And what happens when you find that money, you call a number and people from that family say thank you and come and get that. Like, I don't think people understand that this is the stuff that countries, this is how they get paid, how they fuel things. And when you talk about crack in the 80s and things like that, like you need cartels or you need Contras or you need, you know that guy Bin Laden that we hate. Like, well, guess who trained him? We did, because these people are in cahoots. A lot of this stuff is above certain pay grades. It's ingrained in making us one of the richest countries in the world. And again, a cartel is not a country. It's not relegated to a country. They have a territory, but they're all over. Like David was pointing out, the way that this has shaped it is that it's scary to have. And this is sometimes why the CIA does some of the things. I'm not caping for the CIA, but when there's a power vacuum, it's even more dangerous for everybody. When people are like jockeying for that position to be next, when you talk about the head of the Hydra, who gets to be the new one, people are waiting there, and they tend to be very, very brutal people. And so, what this has done is like, look, we want to keep this business going. We want to keep selling, and it was cocaine before. It's been weed. Fentanyl is huge, man. It's huge, and it's easy to move. This is part of a global economy issue, and how do you deal with it? And I think that sometimes people are struggling with that. There's movies that kind of talk about that stuff. One of my favorite movies is Sicario, and it kind of talks about these kind of things and how they happen and how they got to take place and what you got to do so you don't have an international thing. You have to also look at, there are enemies of America that are in direct cahoots with, like, they're setting up in that area to kind of do stuff and bring things over. So I didn't give a full answer, but I'm trying to just explain the scope, because I don't want, I think a lot of people that are not familiar are devolving it to like, well, this is just like a rogue gang. And it's not. It's a very sophisticated system that once you think that you've tamped it down, it just grows up, whether it's Griselda, whether it's Chapo, whether it's these people. It's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. And I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do and stay diplomatic at the same time. And I think it takes us to a place that's above a lot of pay grades. I don't think this is the stuff where you call out armies. This is stuff where you call out operatives and send them in. So I'm gonna land my plane there because and again, yeah, I'm gonna just stop because it's a big topic, and like I said, I want to take it with respect. When it's the black topics, me and Jew be on the top of those. So with this one that's south of the border, I'm getting out the way and I'm gonna be commenting, but I'm fascinated in it in the sense because it's a fascinating story, but there's so much human capital that stands to be lost. And what do you do? Like, again, even the biggest gangs here don't want it with the police. They don't want it with the military. When you have an entity that size, that's like, we are declaring the war. We're taking all this down. That's just different, man. That's saying we don't care about the Americans. We don't care about, we don't like. It's going to be interesting.
Yep, absolutely, man.
Not a good answer,
David?
but
I got a question.
I think it opens it up into like, this is a very complicated scenario that I would say there is, in this case, not a whole lot that Trump did to get involved, but I don't want to exclude the fact that like Trump and his team decided to bomb like Venezuelan boats that may or may not have had cartel stuff on it, and man, that can piss off a group of people. Just saying. Dave, Jubilee, what are y'all thoughts?
I think Jubilee had something.
Mhm.
I was reading something that was making it seem like this was a collaboration between the United States and
Good question.
Mexican government.
Yeah.
So
So
how about that?
the SEAL Team 2, which is based here out of Coronado,
Mhm.
San Diego, was in Mexico doing some kind of joint military exercises in that part of the country with the Mexican Navy a couple of weeks ago. But there's no direct proof that they were actually involved. But who knows, right? But there is no like direct proof that they were involved in the actual operation. So there's that.
So there's the operation, and then there's the intelligence. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. I don't know if we'll ever know that, but it's very interesting because there is like this is not this is a Mexican issue, but it's also like there's all these aspects of it that cross borders, and this is kind of where you can get into it from an educational perspective. If like I wish I was teaching 11th grade U.S. history right now. When you think about it, Mencho had illegally immigrated to the U.S. in the 1980s. He was living in San Francisco. He got arrested by San Francisco Police Department. I forgot for what, but there's a mugshot of him you can find from SFPD. Then he got deported, and then he started his thing. There's no clear indication right now about who the next leader will be, but one of the names that's coming up is a younger guy who's been in the organization for a while. What is his name? Forget his name. It's still not verified. His nickname is El Pelón, the bald one. Juan Carlos Valencia Gonzalez. This guy was born in Orange County, California in 1984.
Yeah.
So like Mexican American, Chicano dude or whatever you want to call him, then they go back. So there's all this like cross border stuff. We know whatever percentage of the drugs that they're trafficking, they traffic drugs to all over the world, not just the US, but most come to the US. A lot go to Europe. But the drugs are consumed here in this country on the streets of Philadelphia, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, DC, Dallas, Miami, San Diego. The US has a drug problem. We have a drug consumption issue. And we're never going to win this war on drugs. We're never going to win it. Sorry. Nancy Reagan, turn over in your grave. You lost. It brings up this whole what I think we need to start talking about again is like legalization of certain drugs, right? People are going to do drugs. They've always done drugs. What if the government got involved like many European countries have
Yes.
in regulating that stuff?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of a tangent, but the other cross-border piece is for every 100 weapons that they seize from Mexican drug cartels, 70 to 80 come from the US. So you want to talk about like, oh, gun control is an issue in the US. It is. You can go buy a freaking bazooka in Nevada and drive it into California, where you can't even get a handgun if you had a traffic ticket when you're 18 years old, right? So we live in this like system, our country and the way that we're set up, we don't have like national regulations and laws around guns and weapons. And so they take full advantage of that. And gun manufacturers, both legal and illegal sellers, they're taking the money. Right. And so there's all these different like dimensions to it. I think it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'm looking at HRAP 30. This is along the lines of where I'm thinking. We definitely provided the intel to Mexican government for the operation. We're number one arms dealer in the world. Because I'm like, no, USA's fingerprints are somewhere on this. Because like,
oh yeah,
what's the motive for this? And then I just put an article, link in the chat because that PBS article was just talking about how some high impact criminals from Mexico have been extradited, and it's like for what? But thinking about the bigger picture around conversation around raising the tariffs and whatever, like you were saying earlier, Omar, that the Mexican people, they don't want the U.S. armed forces on their soil. Right. So let's do what we can to show that we are cooperating, because we really don't want to be bothered and we don't want these tariffs. I just think there's a bigger picture surrounding it, because how is it all of a sudden you were able to kill this big cartel king after all this
There's
time?
a lesson here. There's a lesson here for your boys too, Jubilee.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to convince my son. I'm like, if you're going to get a girlfriend, but make sure it doesn't take you off track, because you're going to get distracted and it's going to create a complicated situation for you. The reason I bring this up, if you remember the way that they got Escobar, is because he used the wrong kind of phone when he was calling his wife. So the way they
caught this cat because of OnlyFans. His girl, the dude that they just caught, he was with an OnlyFans girl, and they just tracked her.
Yep. And the way that they got Chapo was also a female. So
absolutely.
Yo, this is the kind of shit that my mom uses as arsenal as a child, and people like, why aren't you married, Omar? I'm like, this is the kind of shit. This is the kind of shit, man.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's. But I hear what Jube's saying. Jube, I just sent you something in the private chat too. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the link too. But a lot of these people are a part of so we have our U.S. FBI most wanted list, global list. So these people are still global. They're globally wanted, right? Like we want to capture these people. We want to. Also, I don't think the U.S. doesn't have a lot of faith that the Mexican government would be able to hold these people. Remember, they captured Chapo before, and then he escaped through the tunnel system.
Through a toilet.
So it's not really. I mean, again, this isn't Republican. This ain't Democrat. This is like
money. U.S.
government, a ton of money, and this side of the world, right? Like it's like get your side of the world in check, America. You know what I'm saying? And Mexico wants to always be in good relation with us because it behooves them to in that kind of way. So what's happening is, and then again, the World Cup is coming. See, this again, billions of dollars come. If you look at what happened in Brazil when the World Cup came, all that crime, all that stuff, everything out in the street walkers, everybody got caught up in the sweep because it's so much money that's coming, right? And things that people stand to lose. So there are these operations that happen all the time. I'm not in the military, but it gets complicated around who can do what and when and how. So sometimes we can't touch it, but we can pay for it, or we can do this, or they need, or we do a favor for them, they do a favor for us. So again, it's a lot of countries that want to get these people captured. But it's like once you get these people, so if America's like, hey, we helped you kill this cat, we did our part. You gotta tamp that down. And Mexico doesn't just want the United States government can't just. Anyway, it'll take you know what I'm saying? So I think it's a good question that you asked. I just dropped that list, but you'll see people from all over the world. And I get what you're saying too, David, right? Like we can make weed legal. We can make, certain things legal, but then it's like fentanyl is here. Like fent is here. Fent is changing the game. You still gonna get your heroin. You still gonna get your weed. You still gonna get your stuff. Because again, even if America makes it legal, it's so many other places that's not. And even in that, let me do something that's legal to make a little bit more sense. Coffee. People die over coffee. People die over who controls coffee, the production of coffee, who gets to sell it. It's like the mob here, right? Like they're gonna have their hands in it, whether it's legal or illegal. So it's just such a big transnational thing. So I don't know, man. I don't know what you tell people in San Diego or what you tell people in Oklahoma or New Mexico. Like the border politics is complicated. I was gonna ask you, because you're right there, kind of in the shit, Omar. Like, how does this play out in everyday life for you all, like in ways that you might see?
It's a great question. The quick answer is in El Paso, like I said, not a whole lot, because the cartels don't want any heat. And El Paso is one of the safest cities in the country. And people are like, okay, really? And I'm like, yeah, man, El Paso is consistently voted, or not voted, statistically given the respect of one of the safest cities in the country. And people have this misnomer. It's like, well, you got the military there, you got the DEA there, you got ICE there. Like, yeah, we got a lot of initial organizations, like initials. But the truth, why it's so safe, this is the entryway, baby, for all of those drugs. All those billions of dollars of drugs that proliferate across the United States. El Paso is a massive entryway for it. Massive. And I'm going to assume a massive money laundering front for him as well. I've seen some businesses here. I'm like, ain't no one there ever. How the hell you stay in business 15 years? I don't know a single person that's gone to that place to do business. Stays in business, money laundering. So El Paso will see an influx of people come in because they may be getting away from the violence, the everyday situation. That's if they can come in. But for the most part, in El Paso, you don't see the repercussions. The repercussions happen across the Mexican landscape because, as the question begets, when you kill the head of one organization, you've got yourself two massive problems. First, civil war within that cartel to see who's going to be the next metal, the next head person. And that often creates ludicrous instability within that cartel that then allows other cartels to be like, hey, they're unstable. Let's kill them all. That can create massive repercussions. Then what happens is that then the Mexican military and the federales are playing defense. This is what happened with Chapo, Doc. They were so focused on trying to contain the massive amount of murder that was going on across Mexico that police and federales and the military were so involved that petty crimes, burglary, muggings, all those were going completely unnoticed and unregulated because they didn't have the police power or the federale power to deal with those crimes. Now, what does that mean for Mexico? This is why you're going to see the United States more involved in this. This is why you're going to see the Mexican government more involved and probably have to broker some kind of deal because, as you astutely said, Doc, you've got the World Cup, arguably, not arguably, next to the Olympics, the largest sports event in the world. Makes the Super Bowl look like Disney's ice skating and shit in terms of amount of money, revenue, people, like it's no joke. Mexico
and now legal gambling too. Don't leave out legal gambling and illegal gambling.
Right.
That you can now
Mexico
bet on all this stuff.
relies heavily on tourism money. The last thing that that government and that military is going to allow is the diminishment of that tourism predicated on the violence of the cartels. So a deal will be brokered. And that's how this all comes together. And by the way, it's been happening since the 70s and 80s. If it would take me a whole show, 2 shows, 3 shows of just talking by myself to describe the entirety of the scenario. But if you are highly interested in what the hell is happening, how this happened, go to Netflix and watch Narcos, Mexico. 3 seasons. The first season, it will break down how all of this started incredibly well. The second season gets into my childhood, the 90s, and the Fuentes Carrillo cartel, which then begets how Chapo came into power in 2008. So, yeah, man, it is a very complicated endeavor, but that begets the second one is like people internationally have a vision of what's going on. I have, because I've lived here, because I know the situation, a significantly more in-depth look into what's happening. But I ask you all, like, how do you think the media has played a role in shaping the public perception of the cartel and what's going on in Mexico?
I think they do it terribly because every country is trying to make their country not look bad, not look like a player. So, you know, you might say Escobar didn't just deal with it. Escobar controlled 80% of global cocaine market. Like of the world. Like, and then when he died, even if you watch Narcos, you'll see these other people. You'll see early remnants of Chapo. You'll see like these like kids, like people. You'll see some of these people start working with the government because they want to get the guy out, and it's so much money. And I think it's so when the media, it's hard for the media to control it because the government will step in and say, we're not. Y'all don't remember Ronald Reagan getting on TV and saying, we did not negotiate. we did not pay or negotiate. And then he had to come back when the evidence was damning because it's embarrassing. And every government has their hand in this stuff because it's big business. It's so intertwined with everything. Wasn't there a study that there is every American dollar made in whatever year has trace cocaine on it or something? It's ridiculous. Like, and so I think the media hasn't always done a good job of talking about just how pertinent this was. And then when you do get somebody that's honest, there's a guy by the name of Gary Webb from the San Jose, the San Jose paper. He is the person who exposed. Remember, Freeway Ricky Ross worked with him. They're the ones that, he's the one that broke the deal around crack being brought into black communities, and he was blackballed and shamed. And he just happened to they said he killed himself. He did not kill himself. So when you do, cartels don't fuck around with media. They don't play games with journalists. And they said Gary Webb was they called him they said he was crazy and paranoid and all this stuff. They got that dude off the map. And that news travels. That news travels. And when you're writing a story and you get called into an office and someone gets killed, there's a bigger office that's like, hey, we working on something. We're running this play. You cannot report X, Y, and Z. And so that's why. But it's the same way. You're not reading about Darfur. You're not reading about these African war-torn countries that are in fights right now and taking slaves and killing whole cities and like really getting rid of people. So it's tough, man. It's really tough. And once you start, and if you get really good at untangling it, your family and you are in real trouble, regardless of where you are on this planet. And that's scary.
That is.
I think there's I want to talk about music for a second. You're talking about media. But I want to talk about music
good call.
Because I see a very clear parallel here between hip hop and rap music and Mexican corrido music, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is like, there's a difference between like rapping or singing about a social context, and hip hop has done that, for decades very well. And so has Mexican regional norteño corrido music. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference when you go from like singing to document history and experience to promoting cultures of violence, whether it be on the streets of Chicago or the Bronx or on the streets of Sinaloa, right? And a lot of musicians now in Mexico have gotten, and it's kind of like once you're locked in. You can't walk away from that stuff. They'll pay you and they will expect you to continue to make music that supports particular cartels, right? And the big cartels. And it's a lifestyle choice. But once you're locked in, you're locked in. Look at what happened to. So is there a responsibility of the artists? Well, I would say yes, but if you think no, eventually something is going to happen to you. So like, look at what happened to Chalino Sanchez, right? One of the most famous like Mexican singers from Western Mexico, and he was taken out like due to violence, right? Somebody handed him a note. It's like on the internet, you can find it during one of his concerts, and he read the note, and it was basically a death threat. He was dead within a week. And now you have artists like Peso Pluma, big, huge artist, and he's come out and made some statements
with them. I think 50 has done some shows with them.
And he's come out and made statements. He's like, I'm not going to change my music. I'm going to still like talk about like, but and he's kind of like borderline like, dude, are you promoting this stuff? And I mean, because there's a cost to that. So I think there's this other piece of how we, you know, and the same could be said for like this general culture that we have now of like, you know, people wanting to like have the appearance of being wealthier than they are with clothes and cars and bling, right? Essentially trying to like mirror, you know, what it looks like to be a drug dealer, right? On both sides of the border. And so there's all these like tangents from the US to Mexico, which I think are quite fascinating.
Well, and stay there, David. I mean, you know, Jubilee, are you a Anita Baker fan? I love Anita. She's my favorite songstress. Do you like Anita Baker?
Love her.
Freeway Rick Ross paid for Anita Baker's first album. He put $600,000 of crack money there because, again, you also have to watch this money. You can't just all this money. You can't just go.
It's called narco philanthropy. Narco philanthropy.
Team, we're telling people they got to go watch Narco and then go watch Ozark. Because you got to clean the money, right? Like, so again,
yeah, man.
I love Anita Baker. Freeway likes Anita Baker, but he also got all this money. You can't just, you have to show and again, people don't want problems with the IRS, man. People, again, it don't matter who the president is, Democrat or Republican. You know what department of the government seems to always run okay? The fucking IRS.
Yeah.
And also just look in our history. You know who took, I'm in Chicago, Al Capone. You know who took down Al Capone? It wasn't the FBI. It wasn't the military.
Yeah, man.
It was the IRS. It was
Department of the Treasury.
It was the Department of Treasury. I don't know if the IRS was fully funded.
It didn't exist.
But it was
not yet.
Exactly, right?
The
So
IRS
again,
came from that.
So all this money, all this global stuff, it's our hands. It's London's hands. It's a global commingling of money, and you got to watch it, you know. And it's so he talked about those Latin artists. It happens in our community, like it's a whole thing, man. People get extorted every single day, and now you have new things. So look at like the NBA. Remember, I don't know if y'all remember earlier in the year they had that coordinated thing where they caught the drug, not drugs. It was a gambling ring, and then they looked up the ladder. They looked up the ladder. It's the fucking cartel. Like it was like card games from like a ball player who's retired that could get all these. So like I'm a ball player. I'm retired. All of y'all play ball. Y'all trust me. Y'all come and play. But it's a big money game. They had professional poker players coming out 6 years ago and been like, oh, that's a cartel game. Like, this is a rigged game. So again, the hands are everywhere. It's not the borders aren't stopping much. Is all I'm saying. I'll drop a link in for you. It's fascinating.
100%. Yeah, man. And I mean, we could do a whole show that I would probably not do.
Right.
Like you know what I'm saying, Doc? Yeah, you do.
Right. Right.
Certain partnerships that exist. I'll leave it at that. Within this reality, that would absolutely blindside most of our audience members. Like I said, I just live here. I kind of know it. A lot of people do know it. I'm also a researcher of history, and man, this goes a lot farther than you could think. Now we are 5 minutes away from the show being over, ladies and so I'd love to do some final thoughts. Yeah, exactly. Grand opening, grand closing. Or you can kind of take a stab at our last question is, for communities that are affected by cartel violence, what are some of the educational supports that we could provide? And I'd hate to be a cynic. I'm the biggest optimist on the face of the planet, but like it is a very difficult scenario for education to fight how pervasive and how extraordinary the cartels make their lifestyles look. So Doc, Dave, and Jubilee, y'all were already referencing this, like it's in the music, it's in the style, it's in the money. And when kids are growing up in poverty and seeing, oh, I can have money and women and guns and respect, like and I can have it now, why would I stay in school? And that's a very difficult proposition because
it feels like a whole other show, man.
It is. It is
to be
totally
quite honest. I want to share a quick story, then I'll get out of the way for the closing thoughts. So in I'm going to date myself here. In 1991, maybe it was earlier, maybe 1990. I was 20 years old. It was 89. I was 19. I just graduated high school, and I went to Puerto Vallarta with a couple of friends from high school, a couple of girls, a couple of guys, and we stayed down there for a couple of weeks. Living on the beach and doing all the things, right? And the girls that we were with were like, "We want to go to a nightclub." We're like, "Okay." So we had to go out and buy clothes to go to a nightclub because we didn't bring those kind of clothes. And we ended up going to a club, and we all had a great time. When I watched Narcos Mexico, it all came back to me. The scene from the Puerto Vallarta nightclub where the Tijuana cartel came in and attacked Chapo's, or vice versa, where there was a massacre there at this nightclub. It was called Christine's. So my claim to fame is like I was there at the Christine's nightclub 2 years before the massive massacre happened. So we are all part of living history. You just have to like look around, right, and study it, because you will clearly see that we've all been in particular spaces in time, around these historical events. And so that's my closing thought.
Very, very interesting, man.
A beautiful nightclub.
I was,
bro.
Jube, I know if you, I couldn't see you, so I'll go after you, Jube.
No, listen, this whole time I've been thinking about the Epstein files and how, like, to me, it's the same deal, right? Like, you've got elite people, or you've got, infiltration of systems and high-ranking officers and organizations, and like Charles was saying, like, you've got a bunch of hands in the pot,
Yeah.
I don't think you can get to this level of power, because I was reading something where it says like they practically destroyed a country in a day, essentially. And I heard, that they're very targeted and all of that in terms of what they like, who they go after, but there's still a bunch of casualties regardless, So that's basically what I was thinking, just about, corruption, how multiple people have their hands in the pot connected to money, and the same system that, protects cartels or allows them to have these, such longevity is the same kind of system that'll protect the Epsteins of the world and everybody else mentioned in those files. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and just I want to make the NBA thing that's not I don't want to put that that's not the cartel, that's the mafia, but still understanding organized crime. For my final thought, I know H Rap and thank you H Rap for all your support, man. I love your comments. Keep coming. Comments. He watches both shows. Appreciate you. I will say though, in defense of Jordan actually is one of the biggest philanthropists in the world. His rule though is that you cannot say that he's done it. He does not want that credit, and so I know he takes a lot of shit where people say he's not involved socially or whatever, but like he's one of the biggest in the world. And also congrats to him. He just won his second NASCAR. He won Daytona and then just won again. This dude is he is a psychopath. He just has to win in something. I love Mike, but man, I think this is a huge topic. I think when you talk about students and things like that, though, these new people, look, man, I think there's things that happens in classrooms and a collective, consciousness around certain things, but I think this is huge, man. I think this kind of permeates beyond that. And when you live in a place that where those rules supersede, like, again, I've lived in parts of Chicago where you just know what those rules are. I also remember when they took down Larry Hoover, who was like the big figure here, and it wasn't good for Chicago, right? Because Larry, the city of Chicago, the police, and Larry Hoover had to understand it. And when he was gone and you tore down Cabrini and all these factions, now we have what we have. And when you're trying to stop a war or something like that, and it's not one person to talk to, is difficult, you know. But organized crime is embedded in the world, and especially here in the United States. Listen, man, we gave gangsters the desert. Like they said, hey man, if you take that shit to Las Vegas, have at it. Like the mafia ran Las Vegas for I don't know how long, right? Some will say they still, you know, run it. We call that old Vegas. Go watch now. Go watch Casino, people.
Casino.
We giving y'all a lot of movies to watch.
Casino will tell you all about it.
But I think my final thought is that you want to be able to point to a singular source, and the reason why this works is because you can't. And Jubilee brought up those Epstein files, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm tired of hearing about that too, because I don't know what's gonna happen with it. But it's similar to this because there's not a singular source. Let that shit out unredacted. All this comes down, and I think that's what, you know. There are people that we will never see, we will never know their names, we will never know, you know, what country, you know, they might be from various countries, but they working with information that we don't have. And it's interesting, man. I pray for those people that's out there. And it's rough. And I don't know how long it's gonna last. They said that it's kind of tamped down. What happens when a new leader comes in? What happens when they want to do something different, you know? And I hate when we do, it's tough having shows where we don't have definitive answers, but I do think I think we did a good job in this episode of expanding that world and really understand how complicated that is. Because again, I'm here in Chicago. He's in San Diego.
The surface today too.
In all four places where all of us are, I promise you, there is a cartel presence. I promise you. And so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I mean, real short, real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Damn, we could dive so much deeper into this topic. We have barely scratched the surface of why this is happening, how far reaching this is. I could do episodes based on like crazy stories. There's going to be, it finally got greenlit, and within the next few years, I believe, a Netflix series on a family called the Chagra family that I knew quite well, that were deeply involved in the 1980s cartel situation, that Woody Harrelson, his father, and he were involved in one way or the other. The father, sadly, was I believe, a judge that was killed as a result of all this. And Woody did not want this greenlit because he didn't want to relive this whole thing about his dad. But crazy. That's how far this thing reaches. But ladies and gentlemen, if you love this episode, let us know, because we can definitely go deeper. A-Trap, I'm not sure who you are, but damn, dude, you had some great commentary today. Please come back. Please keep it coming. Mama Toya, we love you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Georgia Hanson, it's great to see you. It's been a little bit of while. Please join us again. On behalf of David Castillo, Dr. Charles Cole III, Queen Lee Ransom, my name is Omar Yanar. I'm your happy co-host of the South Star Classroom. Come back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Good night. Peace. Stay safe.
Peace.